on Coz Heals. It's time for Run It Straight.
Yeah, it's that time of the week where I put a few things under the microscope, and there's a little text here, actually, which may lead me into it. Morning, boys. This one's from Warren. I completely understand that the NRL is now more of a business than a sport, but I feel a bit disappointed that contracts do not reward loyalty or push loyalty. I feel it's more about the money, which is disappointing as a fan sometimes. Thanks for that, Warren. Now, which leads me into this. I mean, I've got to put my player's hat on here. And I completely understand where Warren's coming from. Dylan Brown. So players are coming under necessary pressure given the fact that a club, and I repeat that, given the fact that a club has signed off on their contract. Now, I refer to Dylan Brown, and we've heard it across a number of players throughout the NRL. Dylan Brown, in his contract, has a clause that the club, the Parramatta Eels, has signed off on. The clause is he has the opportunity to put himself out there on the open market, has to be done before round 10. He has a contract at the Parramatta Eels until 2031. But he has to take that up before round 10, otherwise he goes on the open. So what he can do is essentially test himself out there. Now, do I agree with the timing of it in the sense that, you know, the NRL season's just around the corner? No, I don't. Is he well within his rights? Absolutely well within his rights to do what he's doing. The pressures that some of the individuals come under is, it's a money grab, and Warren has said that. The club CEO, who essentially oversees the contracts, they're the people that have ticked off on it. So they understand all the ramifications that may flow off the back of that. Now, for the Parramatta Eels, who sacked their coach in the off-season, they've got a new coach, they've got some new players, and now their star player, who, some may say that Parramatta Eels has absolutely done everything right by Dylan Brown. Dylan Brown may stay with the Parramatta Eels for years to come, until 2031. But he is well within his rights to do what he is doing. We saw the same from Mitchell Moses last year in a similar situation in 2023. Players have the right to do this. If a club wants to sign off on a clause, they are well and truly within their right to do it. Now, I defend the players here because it has a bad look. And the way that it is portrayed across the media, the way that people perceive it, it is just people look and go, well, they're just all about the money and they want to be able to do this. Well, we just heard about the NBA trade that's gone on. Davis has gone. And Doncic is gone to to LA. They didn't know about that. Their clubs have just said, you know what, you're gone. So what is good for the goose has to be good for the gander. Now, I understand also that loyalty does not get rewarded in rugby league or professional sport. If you want loyalty, go and buy a dog. I was very fortunate. I played at the Brisbane Broncos for 16 years. My loyalty run deep. And, if I had my time again, it'd be interesting to see how it would all unfold. I really say that. So for Dylan Brown, who has had his challenges, he's had some indiscretions, he's still a developing guy, he still has his best football ahead of him, he's obviously highly sought after. And it's an opportunity for him to potentially go and test the market, which is what his club had the ability to do. They signed off on the fact that Dylan Brown, yes, we may have Dylan Brown for a long period of time. Why do clubs do that? They try and appease the individual. Dylan Brown's on 900. I think it goes a little bit north of 900 next year and moving forward. So he's hardly underpaid in that area. Is there clubs out there that may pay Dylan Brown a little bit more? You would say yes. The Dolphins come to mind. They put their hand up. What it does it provide instability within the playing group? I say no. Because the players understand, and they have understood it more frequently over the last 4 to 5 years, and even moving forward. They're all in a position where they can potentially go and have negotiations. I go back to the club. If you are putting yourself and running a business and you have multiple players with these clauses in their contract, it muddies the water.
Chaos.
It is chaos. But when you have marquee players and they are demanding clauses as such, from a club's point of view, they either draw a line in the sand and say, no, that's not happening, we're going to do this, and that's our, or they risk losing the player for 1 to 2 years. Well, 1 to 2 years is now down the track, and here we are. Dylan Brown, who still may stay at the club for long term, but he cops pressure and he cops heat. Now, all eyeballs will be on Dylan Brown, and rightly so. He's currently under a $900,000 contract, is led to believe. He has until round 10 to take up the next 3 years of his deal. If he has an ordinary start to the season, well then everyone's got an opinion on Dylan Brown and the drums start beating, and he may stay. But I go back. What is good for the goose has to be good for the gander. So in contract negotiation, in business, the CEOs who sign off on these contracts, the managers are working on behalf of the player. They're just trying to put the best scenario down for their player in what may unfold. So if Dylan Brown absolutely brained it and he had an opportunity to go and test himself on the open market, why wouldn't he do that? That's what he was there for. If it was all about loyalty, he'd sign a 10-year deal, fixed in term, and that was that. But clearly it's not. There's different scenarios for every individual, as to there is different scenarios for coaches. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, we heard from Warren there before, and Warren, you make some great points. But is Dylan Brown doing the wrong thing? Is the noise that's coming out, from Parramatta camp ideal? I say no. There's been a lot of change in Parramatta. There's been a new coach. There's been some new players, and now their star player who went through, some times of, there's some indiscretions from him only recently, and the club stood by him. Yes, they did what they had to do, but they stood by him. A lot of people say he needs to owe the club back. Well, unfortunately, the club have signed off on the terms and the conditions of what was Dylan Brown's contract.
You talked 3 years then.
Yes.
So is it 3 years and then on to 31 after that? Or 7 years there is. But by round 10 this year, he could sign for 3 more years, or he's got to commit to 31.
Yeah, so he has until round 10, and my understanding, to commit or to look elsewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so, the longer it goes on, obviously the more noise it gets, is created. But if you're running a club and you have these scenarios, it just becomes muddy, it becomes murky, and it becomes unstable. So do you agree? 0467 736 736 13 13 55 if you want to call in and have a chat. Love to hear your voices. That is my opinion in and around that space. Loyalty, is it there anymore? Probably not. Is it for everyone? Probably not. And we've heard different players speak openly around, they're only in it for a short time, need to make as much money as you can, etc., etc.
Keep it locked on Breakfast with Corey Parker and Ian Healy on SENQ, Brisbane's home of sport.